Hi, I'm Jules, and this is how I turned my OC into a 14-inch poseable anime figure. It only took a year, 2 resin burns, and my sanity. So this whole process actually started around 6 years ago because I kept trying to find a doll with the customization options I wanted, and they just didn't exist. So I made the very ill-advised decision to learn how to make one myself, which ended up taking ages and absorbing pretty much all of my free time. I started by sketching out the design, then pulled the blueprint into Blender and sculpted her piece by piece. I wanted her to be ridiculously customizable, so she has a magnetized faceplate for easy face swapping, 6 magnetic spot options in her head for horns or hats, 4 in her upper back for wings, and 1 in her lower back for a tail. I even made her hands and feet pop on and off with magnets, so you can switch her hands or shoes without fighting with tiny joints. And because posing is half the fun, she has double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, and 18 points of articulation overall, which means she can hit all those dramatic anime protagonist poses without looking like she needs a chiropractor. I'll show off a bit of that in the final reveal. It took forever to dial in all the details, but she's finally become the customizable fantasy doll I always wanted. So yeah, I'm really happy with her. Last year I tried printing her for the first time and got a little too ambitious. New semi-flex resin, custom mixed skin tone, the whole 9 yards. Shockingly, it failed spectacularly. I also didn't notice a jagged edge had sliced my glove, so I walked away with a chemical burn and a bruised ego. So I got discouraged and shelved the project for months. Don't worry though, now I use sturdier gloves and basically a full hazmat suit. I look like the doll-making Walter White. Once I patched and sanded everything, the hard part was finally done, and I could move on to the actually fun part, customizing her. To plan her character design, I dropped a photo of the doll into my drawing app and sketched right over it. The resin came out beautifully yellow, like an adorable radioactive banana, so I decided to lean into it and turn her into a pumpkin-themed zombie girl. If life gives you lemon resin, make Halloween-themed lemonade. I wanted the nostalgic Halloween anime vibes I grew up loving, so I played around with tons of outfit ideas, and when my brain stopped braining, I switched to good old pen and paper, and that's when the design finally clicked. Once I had a sketch I liked, I moved on to the final illustration. This part was honestly the most fun. Figuring out how to mix cute pumpkin elements with undead details while keeping everything stylized enough to work as an anime figure was an interesting challenge. I used Frankenstein-style patchwork to cover the places I'd patched with epoxy Sculpt and added spiderweb details because she's Halloween-themed. I'm legally obligated. I wanted her to look spooky, silly, and slightly unhinged. Full Treehouse of Horror energy. And since I gave the doll all those magnetic attachment points, I wanted to make sure the design actually used them. Removable wings, a tail, and a bunch of accessories you can swap around. This was the moment she finally felt like a character instead of just a project, and it made me so excited to actually bring her to life. You know, like the tiny Frankenstein she was always meant to be. First up, hair. I started by making a wig cap and gluing the fibers on in little spirals, like a very patient, very tired spider. I then flattened it down with this tiny flat iron, which you absolutely don't need. I just happen to own miniature hair tools for reasons I can't fully explain. Once the cap was covered, I trimmed the bangs, poured boiling water over the whole thing to make it behave, and let it dry overnight, like a tiny, terrifying hair salon. After touching it up, I was pretty happy with it, but honestly, this method is a lot. I'm working on a much easier and faster wig making technique for a future video, so if you want to save yourself some time and your fingertips, consider sticking around. Then I decided to add more cute Frankenstein patches to her face. I just sketched them out, then filled them in with watered down orange acrylic. Nothing fancy, literally just $1 hardware store paint. I've tried the pricey stuff, but honestly, unless you're airbrushing, cheap paint works great. Next, I jumped into my drawing app to sketch out some eye designs. I love making my own 2D anime style eyes instead of the typical resin eyes you see in most BJDs. They're just my personal preference, and you don't need any resin or chemicals to make them. I tried out a bunch of ideas and finally landed on this purple and blue design. And yes, that's a bat-shaped eye shine. She's basically carrying her own built-in gothic ring light. Once I was happy, I printed them out in a bunch of sizes and got to cutting. Then I tried different sizes on with some blue tack, because anime eyes are 90% trial, error, and asking yourself, is she cute or is she haunting me? As I tested the design, she definitely dipped a toe into the uncanny valley, but that's okay, that's just the traditional does the doll look pretty or possessed phase of the process. Then I sealed the eyes onto the base with Duraclear matte varnish, but you can use Mod Podge or even craft glue. Just test it first to make sure you like the look of the shine. Next I added some zombie stitching. I decided to use white paint so it stays pastel instead of horror movie. And then for her face I wanted to keep it super simple and beginner friendly. just 2 watercolor pencils and 3 chalk pastels. I sketched lightly with pink, added blush with the pink pastel, and used black for the eyeliner. And since they're watercolor pencils, a wet paintbrush works like an instant undo button. I used orange pastel for the brows to match her patchwork, and red for the lips. Before all that, I gave her a layer of Mr. Super Clear. It's what lets you sketch and blush on the doll. It's toxic, so you do have to spray it outside with a respirator, which is not the most fun. So when I sell the customizable dolls, I'll have an optional add-on where I've already done that step for you. I used 3 layers here, but 1 layer works for a lighter look. The 3D resin's tiny print lines actually help the colors stick. I'll show a 1 layer face in a future video. So here she is, all finished and ready to head out. Okay, not exactly. First we have to finish her body. So for that, I started by following the patchwork design I sketched out earlier, drawing it on first, then using the same paint I used on her face to cover the print failures, so they turn into cute stitched panels instead of, well, print failures. I gave some of the parts a few coats of orange, then added little spiderweb details. It's basically giving her a pumpkin patch makeover, one disembodied limb at a time. She didn't need to be in pieces for this, I just hadn't put her together yet. But honestly, it kind of fits the Frankenstein theme. After that, I sealed only the painted areas with Duraclear matte varnish, so the unpainted skin wouldn't get streaky. Then I added a bit of pink pastel blush to the body for extra dimension. And here are the finished pieces, freshly painted, freshly spooky. Now it's time for her dress. Starting with a simple rectangle of fabric, first I hemmed the edges, then tested the fit and clipped in the sides to shape it to the body. You can use real pins, but I prefer these tiny clips because they don't stab me every 5 seconds. Also, if you're wondering about my absolutely horrifying mannequin doll, she has no face because she was another failed print, but she's living her best second life as a fashion model, so we don't judge. For the corset, I hemmed a rectangle, tested the lacing, and set it aside for the skirt. I cut a big circle, gathered it, sewed it on, and used my tiny hair iron again to press it. Strangely useful as a crafting tool. I tried dyeing the fabric, but I clearly didn't use enough dye because it came out looking like this. It matches the graveyard theme just a little too well. It looks less like she rules the underworld and more like she got evicted from it. So instead of trying to salvage that, I started over and remade the whole dress with different fabrics. Honestly, totally worth it. This version came out cartoony, clean, and way closer to my original design. Next up, wings. I sculpted them on my low poly mannequin, basically my doll after I deleted so many polygons she now looks like a cursed PS1 character, but my computer appreciates it. I built the bones, sculpted the skin, and fun fact, bat wings are basically hands with stretched out fingers. Chiroptera literally means hand wing. Mine only gets 3 fingers though because I took some artistic liberties. I hollowed the bones for a wire armature since they're too big to print in one piece, and finished with a tiny heart base with magnet slots so the wings can pop on and off. I wired the wings together and super glued them, then stuck the whole thing onto a chopstick with hot glue so I could paint it. Hot glue is basically my temporary third hand and it pops right off without hurting the sculpt. I painted the outside orange, the inside a soft yellow to match her skin, and added more tiny white stitches because she really is stitched together from head to toe. And wing. And yes, I used my thumbnail as a palette, my nails were sacrificed to the craft gods long ago, and these tiny brushes run out of paint every 5 seconds, so it's honestly convenient. I sealed everything and dusted on a little pastel for extra dimension, though of course I forgot to film that part. And here are the finished wings. If you're wondering about the gloves, they're meant to protect resin from hand oils, but honestly, not necessary. I just own a bunch, so now I guess they're part of the aesthetic. Now it's time for accessories. I sculpted a little cartoon pumpkin, gave it a jack-o'-lantern face with the mask tool, then tested the size on my mannequin head with some hair I sculpted for a different project. Had to make sure it would fit like a cute pumpkin hat, not a full NASA certified pumpkin dome. You can totally make these with clay of course, but since I already made the 3D files, I'll pop them on Etsy for a couple bucks if you want to try this project out for yourself or create your own tiny pumpkin cult for your bookshelf. Then I made a little spade for the end of the long tube I posed to make the tail and carved out a magnet slot at the top so I can snap it onto her body later. I printed everything in clear resin so I could add lights later, but some of the thinner parts cracked so I patched those up, which kind of defeats the whole clear resin thing, but hey, at least the hat survived. I then painted the shoes I sculpted. The magnets inside let you swap her feet and shoes instantly. Detachable feet. They're truly the future of fashion. Next, I painted the candies I sculpted and got way too excited about this gold paint, so enjoy this completely unnecessary close-up. And here are some close-ups of the finished candies, plus the pumpkin hat with the light off and on. And this jack-o'-lantern bag, yeah, it glows in all the wrong places, but I refuse to let that stop me from adding yet another LED. Next, I added the gold accents to her shoes and turned all the candies into a little sparkly belt using a necklace I don't wear. I almost glued the candies straight onto the dress like in my painting, but I wanted them to be removable, for when she wants to accessorize based on her mood or her sugar levels. And now it's time for the best part, assembling her. Time to stitch my little creation together, metaphorically, no lightning bolts required. Now that you've met the parts, it's time to meet my final creation. And here's my finished doll. Whoops, forgot to use the hat magnet slot. Anyway, I'm so happy with how she turned out. Let me know what you think and what I should name her. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, consider leaving a like or subscribing. And if you want to try customizing her for yourself, she'll be available for pre-order on my Etsy. What kind of anime girl do you think I should make next? Let me know in the comments.